Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Yes, I am behind the times today, but so grateful to be here. Good morning. I'm Jackie Glass, Mama Navy Vet Certified Doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates, 93rd District. Happy to be here. Happy to serve. Um, so we are back at it. Just as a reminder. Um, of where we are process wise, just for you guys to get oriented. Um, Definitely drop in the chat what is on your questions, comments, concerns. Remember, this is your time. I say that all the time, and I end up sitting here as a talking head. So just to remember that this is your time. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have concerns, I definitely want to make sure that you drop in the chat. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We care 757. Good morning, David. Good morning, Kid Willie. Glad to have y'all here. So where we are process wise, just to back up and then move forward, I just want to share a resource that I received that I thought was pretty good for me when I'm trying to ingest information to share with you. Also, I want to talk. I do have some good media resources as we move forward because I think that's important in the work that we do. But timeline for me, I will be going back to Richmond on April 2nd. I need that day to be cemented in the minds of you all. April 2nd. I do not return back to Richmond until April 2nd. That is reconvene, and that is when we will go up and we will hear about, we will know what will happen with all the legislation that we did, all the work that I did with in the legislative body in January and February. The governor is now taking action. Remember that he has 4 actions that he could take on legislation. The governor can sign bills. The governor can veto bills. The governor can amend. Amend, what I mean by amend is change them, like add, like, I want this to say this instead of this, or the governor can do nothing. So we'll be waiting on those 4 actions. Those 4 actions uh, on April 2nd, and we'll know all of those things, and then we'll be able to move forward from there. And then by after April 2nd, what I suspect is our delegation will have a town hall where everyone that represents the city of Norfolk will come together and be able to sort of debrief you all, and it'll be from a place of truth and knowledge, because we'll know exactly what made it through the legislative process and what didn't. Good morning, Stacy. How are you? Again, remember, drop your comments in the chat for me today. So something I've been thinking about that I know one time when I was speaking here, I was talking about the importance of there's several things that I think are going to be super important as we move forward, right? As we move forward, especially holding in our hands what kind of government we have, right? Do you guys remember that when we talked about, I think last week, and I know David, you were here, I think you were here, we talked about the sorts of things that the tools, parts, and materials that we're going to need at our fingertips to be still be able to find hope, to still be able to stay in the fight. One of those things was media, right? Good media. And I ended up talking to several people because I'll tell you, a lot of time I'm really disappointed with the way news is reported in our area in Hampton Roads. I was like, dang, like the headline is misleading, but that's not just us. So realize that there's been a concerted been a concerted effort to undermine the ability of media to do what it should be able to do. I can't remember the act. I'll pull it up. In a chaotic political environment, we need good media. What I did is I found for you all, I'm sorry, I'm typing for you too. I found for you all some really good resources that I think that I've sort of that I brought to the forefront for myself, so that at least I too am able to share information from a place of love. Because let's just say this, let me like be really clear, because I feel like I'm talking my head. The media plays a critical role when we're in a chaotic political environment. It serves as both a stabilizing force, and sometimes at times it's contributing factor to disorder. And you all probably have seen that. And this is why when I look at how I inform you as the public, right? Um, Especially in times where we are politically turbulent, I think about access to accurate information, timely things, fact-based reporting. That is essential for you and me to understand what is actually happening, and to be able to distinguish between the truth and misinformation, so that we can make informed decisions. And it also allows, and I see some comments. I'm gonna get to your comments. Good morning, Derek, the activist. Good morning, Stephanie. Good morning, Benita. Good morning, CG. Sorry. But what also having a good news source does is it lets you hold people accountable, like Armed Forces. I see that. It lets you hold people accountable and acts as a watchdog, sort of exposing. It can expose corruption. It can expose misconduct. It can expose policy failures, but it also can show the good things. And because we're in again, a extremely chaotic political environment, something that's really important is investigative journalism. It's especially vital when our environment becomes unstable and unpredictable. We need a solid folks that are willing to report. And because what happens to us, right, as we ingest the political things to you and I, is it begins to shape our perception of things. So how the media outlets frame events, how they frame events, absolutely 1000% influences your public opinion, and sometimes reinforces divisions, but also being able to have the power to build consistence or encourage our civic engagement. To David's point, I want to mention here, David James Glass, he said the Armed Forces Marine headlines were crap. Yes, the Mercury had a good one, though. They exposed that Alan Beale and all of the people he currently owes. Yes, right. That is to David's point. That's a solid point. When I read the headline, and I didn't even want to repeat the headline, I was like, wait a minute, I know that Norfolk, at least what I love about Norfolk in this region, is that Norfolk is the one city where I think people are free to be, even if they don't agree, right? Like, even if they don't agree, that this is the one city that doesn't have that reputation of tolerating BS in that way. We have an economic divide, right? And we literally have a racial divide in our city, right? The way that Tidewater Drive cuts through our city, the way that Church Street cuts through our city. There's literally dividing lines. But we've grown to a point where you can cross those lines. We still are kind of have a government that recognizes that both sides of those lines deserve equal economic development. I've said this always, is that there's the problems we have is still economic, very, very much so an economic divide, because we've got Lurchmont and Lindenwood in the same school district, right? You can walk on, you really can tell the difference between the way we develop the west side, and that's our issue. The other things that, like what the headlines were saying, I was like, that doesn't even make sense for Norfolk, because we are that city. We are the city of cultural richness. We just are. And so David is absolutely right. That headline, if someone would have read that headline, they would not know the true reason as to why those folks left this city. Or left it. Not even, it wasn't even about leaving the city. It was about having a viable business. And so I'm glad that Virginia Mercury had a better article. Also, WHRO had a better article. I want to make sure, I want to get to the resource that I have for you all is for news, because I too am looking for better resources. I'm telling you, because we need it. Um, we need it. And so what the news also does, it can be a place to provide a platform for debate, which is important. A diverse and independent media outlet also allows for a variety of voices to be heard, including marginalized groups, opposition leaders, and experts. That contributes to a more balanced political discourse. I'm actually going to look it up. What was the it was a federal law that that made sure there was balanced media coverage. Hold on, I'm gonna pull that up. Uh, I can't remember what it was, but there was a federal law that essentially said that you had to tell both sides of the story, and it was repealed. I cannot remember when it was repealed. I'm going to figure out. Stephanie Nicole says, my friend took the headline and turned it into a candle. He's donating a chunk of his product. Yes, I saw that, right? Yes, I saw that, and I got phone calls about it. Somebody was like, someone made it into a candle. So shout out. That's Norfolk Candles, right? I'm pretty sure that's who it was, but I saw the headline. I didn't get to read the article. And that's why headlines are so important, because I didn't get to read the article. I just saw it. I saw that it was something that folks did. Hey, I'll see you. You make it a great day. Are you okay? No. What's wrong? I leave down next to my thing and my whole program. Okay. We're gonna choose to make it a great day. You got this. Yep. Norfolk Candle. Sorry. Yep. Goodbye, my lady. All right. So, yes, Norfolk Candle. So that's the thing. Like in it, and he did that. Norfolk Candle made that candle also to be like, yo, let's just embrace it. We embrace the things that pull people together here in Norfolk. And what he did was, and this is something that the media has a very big role in doing, is mobilizing civic engagement. They can inspire political action, whether through voter education, grassroots movements, policy advocacy, or just ensuring that democracy remains active in turbulent time. I think about that candle that was made that is pulling people together and being like, yeah, okay. Like the media did that. If that wasn't the headline, that candle wouldn't exist, right? If it was just a headline that talked about the financial turbulence, it wouldn't exist. So we need media, and we have to ingest it. If you are not, I was just reading. My son's school puts out a on the record thing, and they had this article that talked about and I want to grab it because I think it's right there, but that talked about the importance of ingesting media past the paywall, because if you are not paying for some sort of media, the media, you are the product. That's what they said. You end up becoming the product. Because we need stability. And I'm about to tell you some news sources that I've been using that are phenomenal. And if you have some sources that you recommend, I would love for you to drop it in the comment. If there's a balanced media source that you use, that you listen to, definitely throw it in the chat, because when the media is operating well in a chaotic political environment, it understands that while sensationalist media can contribute to chaos, responsible reporting helps provide context, right? It to what we were just talking about. It fact checks, it's reassuring, it reduces panic, and it fosters rational discourse. And that's what we're missing, is rational discourse. And so the challenge, of course, is ensuring that the media right now, the challenge is ensuring that it remains free, that it remains ethical and accountable to the public, rather than becoming a tool for manipulation. And in a chaotic political climate, the media literacy, because that's what we need. Media literacy is just as important tool as the media itself. And so we need to critically evaluate our sources, the question bias, right? And we have question bias, and seek multiple perspectives. With that being said, a friend of mine, and shout out to Stephanie, Stephanie said, well, we were talking about this, and she's like, I got a couple sources for you. And I want to share some of them. I definitely want to share some of the sources that I have, and I'm going to try to share my screen. One source that she told me about was called Ground News. And I'm saying that out, ground, like the ground that we stand on, news. Let's see if I can share my screen to show you this Ground News share. All right. So this is Ground News. And what I like about Ground News is that it will take an article and it will tell you the article's leaning. So if you take a look here, let's see if I can also get back to, yeah, okay, we'll do it this way. Okay, so it'll take an article and it'll tell you where that article leans. So it says government shutdown likely. Schumer Democrats will block the funding bill. But if you look closely, and I hope it's letting you see it, it'll say under the article, it has, let me see if I can make this closer. Under the article, it has how the political is leaning, and it's 40% left, 26% center, 34% right. And it goes through these articles and it sort of tells you what the article's leaning is, right? What the article's leaning is. And if you sign up for an account, what it'll do is it'll also sort of tell you where your blind spot is. And so these are stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. And so blind spot report will tell you if you have a blind spot for the left or the right, then you can go and say, hey, let me go look at what the media is saying on the right side to sort of understand what's happening here. So yeah, like I said, look at the percentages. It'll tell you if this leans heavily right, this leans heavily left. So I think that this is an amazing source to sort of have at your fingertips. Let me stop sharing. To have at your fingertips, right? Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty cool. So ground news, ground news, it can be an amazing source of looking at what kind of and seeing what kind of news sources you're actually looking at and blind spots. So if you got, and I'm looking for my text message, there's another one that I have that I want to share with you all that I thought was a great source for media. And I'm looking for it because I definitely Ground News, and I joined Reddit too. That's something else that I did. I joined Reddit to sort of put myself in a position to I love Norfolk Reddit because it definitely, you can find threads that are really helpful. My spouse actually uses Reddit, like they have an air traffic control Reddit where they all share information back and forth. I think that is a better set of humans using it. But what I love, and I'll share this again for those of you guys that are just joining, that I love that this news site, that Ground News, is able to share with you again what is your blind spot. And I'm wondering, what is your blind spot? I'm going to pull up an article that seems pretty balanced, right? You want for the most part, you want an article that has a lot of white in it, center, but also again making sure that you're seeing what's okay. Got it. So let's look at this Greenland article. This is a center article. This Greenland article says Greenland's low independent party wins election in result in results seen as a rejection of Trump's interference, right? This is a very center article here, right? Like there's not enough bias in here. So you're getting pretty much a level-headed source of news. But if I go to this one, this has a left-leaning bias. See how it says it's the sources, 50% of the source lean left. The ownership, you have to upgrade to see the rest of the things, but you see that? Like, I can appreciate that. And so that's a source that I think that I'll start using as well, just to help me, be better, to do better. Definitely y'all drop your what is your reliable source? What do you use as, and then what do you look for when you're reading a story or you're taking in information? What are you looking for in that source? Drop it in the comments and tell me who you listening to, because I think we're all looking for a I think we're all looking for a place in a media source that is going to not make us get on the fringe. So I'm trying to also find, and if you have events or anything coming up, drop it in the comments. I'm trying to find that not political. Okay, so here it was. Got it. Found it. I told you I would find it. So there used to be this thing called the fairness doctrine. And I need y'all to say that in your mind, fairness doctrine. This fairness doctrine is part of the reason why the way we ingest media has changed so much. It was a federal policy that required balanced and fair coverage of controversial issues by broadcasters. And it was established by the FCC, and the FCC is the Federal Communications Commission, in 1949. And it mandated that holders of broadcast licenses, so if an organization has a broadcast license, it must present controversial issues of importance to the public, and it must provide contrasting viewpoints on those issues. And the goal was to ensure that the public received diverse perspectives rather than one-sided propaganda, because I think folks understood how important the media was. But in 1987, listen to me, in 1987, under the Reagan administration, the FCC, and if you don't know what the FCC is that's the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC repealed the fairness doctrine in 1989. It argued that it was outdated and that the rise of cable television and other media sources provided enough diversity in viewpoints. And what that repeal did, right? Remember, this is called the fairness doctrine. What that repeal did is it led to the rise of more partisan news coverage, and there was no longer a requirement to be balanced, right? There have been attempts to reinstate the fairness doctrine since its repeal. There have been, periodic discussions about reinstating it, but there has been no legislation that has successfully restored it at the federal level. And some people argue social media and cable news make it even more necessary, while other people believe that it would infringe on free speech. So I think it's time to explore. I think it's vital right now that we sort of look at and explore alternatives related to media regulations, because I do believe it is what is creating divides. Because since the fairness doctrine was repealed in 1987, I can understand and appreciate the discussions about modern alternatives to ensure that there's balanced media coverage. And there are some key things in development and policies that have attempted to address fairness. There was the equal time rule, which is still in effect, the equal time rule. So the equal time rule requires that broadcasters offer equal time to political candidates during elections. If they provide one time to one, you guys will see that, then they have to provide that same time to the other candidate. But it only applies to candidates, not to general political discussions or news commentary. So that only applies to candidates. There was the personal attack and political editorial rules, but that was repealed in 2000. And that's where these, particularly the personal attack and political editorial rules, were extensions of the fairness doctrine that required that stations notify individuals when they're going to be personally attacked and then provide them the chance to respond. They also were repealed. That also reduced government oversight over balanced media. And a lot of us, I didn't know that there was rules over balanced media, and that's why those the repeal of those things led to the type of media that we have today. I didn't acknowledge this comment, but I want to. Norfolk is the heart mob. Show love, and we got you. That is so true. I love that, David. That is so true. The FCC, remember the Federal Communications Commission regulations have regulations on media ownership. This is important. So the FCC still regulates the media ownership to prevent monopolies. And you'll hear that the FCC determined blah, 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 right? So they are still in the business of ensuring that that no single company dominates the media landscape in a way that suppresses diverse viewpoints. But they have been weakened. Those regulations have been weakened over time. And that's why you see a lot more consolidation of media ownership. There was a law proposed called the Honest Ad Acts, and it was introduced when there was concerns about the foreign influence on U.S. elections. The bill was aimed to make sure that there were a disclosure for rules for political ads that come on TV or come on a radio. That has not been passed yet. There is still some social media content regulation. So unlike the traditional broadcasters, y'all know social media platforms are not bound by FCC. If you didn't know that, they are not bound by FCC rules. Instead, they are very much so self-regulate through content policies. And under Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, which was put in place in 1996, it shields platforms from liability for the content that's posted by users. But there are still some debate, and we've seen it, about whether to modify the law to hold platforms more accountable. I don't know what you think about that, if that needs to be. This is where we come in. This is where you and I come in as a very important point of how the political sphere influence and media influences us. We have to do a little bit more media literacy. And I said this earlier, and I'm saying it again. We have to have media literacy and fact-checking initiatives. Because of the absence, there's a huge absence in government-mandated fairness, like the fairness doctrine that we used to have. Media literacy programs and independent fact-checking organizations have stepped in to help balance reporting. That's why you'll see the day after speeches, there's the fact checker. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, some of them have implemented fact-checking labels, but that still remains controversial because of the First Amendment implications. I think there's time for a call for a new fairness doctrine just because of what we see the media doing. It is difficult to have sometimes conversation with folks without them spewing out the headlines or the talking point. Because I tell people, I'm not interested. If you're just going to throw headlines at me, we can't even have a conversation, a genuine conversation. So until we are able to have a conversation past what that headline was, then there's really no means or way for us to move forward. And I think that it's fair for us to call for a new fairness doctrine. Some policymakers and media creators they've proposed reviving the fairness doctrine in a sort of modern form, especially given the rise of hyper partisan news. But again, there's always folks arguing that reinforcing media frames today in today's sort of digital and cable driven landscape would be difficult, and that it could still raise those First Amendment uh, concerns. So what are your thoughts? Can you find sources that and I'm trying to find this other source that I had. One was the ground news, and I definitely am hip to that. I think you all should take a bite at ground news. And there was another one she sent me, and I'm trying to find it. There is a Reddit called Ask Conservatives, like on Reddit. So I just joined Reddit, Ask Conservatives, where they dive into here it is, all news. So ground news and all news, where they dive into things. So all news is one of them, and I'll go to that site because I think that's important. It's important to actually share this information with you. So ground news and all news was another one that we've got to each hold each other accountable for what we're taking in. But all news and ground news are two sites that are I can't get my words out. Are two sites that can be helpful, very helpful. Oh, I appreciate you, Mr. Ross. I really, really do. Be probably coming by your doorstep to get myself together. I appreciate you. So what now what, right? So what now what, as I close this out this morning, what I will say is that if you are looking to get involved, I definitely am looking for doers that want to get involved this election cycle. The way that I choose to campaign is to community build. I want people that want to talk to people. We will be on Doers actually this weekend. If you are interested, I will 1000% be out and about getting signatures, or if you feel like I have to get my signatures by the end of this month. Well, I can start handing them in on the 17th, but I gotta have everything in by the end of this month. So if you want to help out us, then 1000%, I would love for you to take a sheet and walk your community if you live in the district and get some signatures, because I want you talking to your neighbors. I think what is going to heal us and help us as a community is when we choose to become better neighbors. Because I have a neighbor I talk to that is MAGA strong. Okay. Like, you're not getting him away from that. But I value and appreciate our relationship as neighbors, because what it has allowed me to do is have understanding for why people make the political choices that they do. A lot of times, we are exchanging our trauma for change, and we're voting based off of either trauma we've seen, feel, or heard, that we want to see someone in the place doing it better. And when we understand where our neighbors come from, and understand their misunderstandings, it allows for more robust conversations. There is going to come a point in time in this political environment, because of what the leader of the executive branch is. And I say sometimes President Toddler, because I think a toddler fails to regulate their emotions, and they are very impulsive because they're still maturing. And that's how I believe that our sitting president behaves. And I think back to my son as like a toddler, not being regulated, just saying everything that's on his mind, and just feeling like people that everyone is entitled to his opinion about things, right? Like, which is not the case. And we as parent, or at least me as a parent, had to guide my son through the maturity process. And I don't think that this particular president has matured out of that process of understanding that everyone is not entitled to your opinion on everything. That the world, we are all born pretty selfish, right? We come into this world, and someone, hopefully, right, is feeding us bathing us, is doing all the thing for us. We are the center of someone's world, and we have to grow out of that. And some people don't, and we see that. I think I see that toddler mentality, mentally, cognitively, a toddler, and that name calling, he hit me, and responding poorly, poor decision making, lack of emotional regulation. And so because of that, we have to have better relationships on a very granular level. So on your block, better relationships on your block make a heck of a difference, will make a heck of a difference, and provide us with the empathy muscle to understand that our country, just like our Commonwealth, are very purple. Okay, like are very purple, which is why balanced media is going to matter. Remember, the fairness doctrine is gone. It was repealed. The Reagan administration did that. So you cannot expect to get sources that are going to show you both sides. So we have to be intentional about the relationships that we build and the information that we ingest. So I'm going to put those things out again. Ground news, which also has a blind spot portion. So if you see that you have a blind spot within media that you're intaking, you can go ahead and fill that back blind spot. I also have All News. All News was another source, as well as I've seen WHR do some very fair and balanced. Someone else mentioned that they use Mercury, which is important. Hey, Nathan, good morning. Good morning. How are you? I hope you're making a great day. Because what I don't want our community to be is a place where it becomes an increased partisan news, where we increasingly only share one side of information and we become an echo chamber. We deserve better than that. We deserve better than that. And we should do better than that, because we are community builders here. At least all the doers I know are community builders. Okay. And we know too, and I'm saying intentionality, because what your social media algorithm is going to do is it's going to amplify content that reinforces beliefs. It's going to create that echo chamber where we're only exposed to the viewpoints that we agree with. We have to get out of that. In order for me to be a good policymaker, I have to hear the other side. And I know now more than ever that has to be done with intent. And again, because of the fairness doctrine's repeal, we have Fox News, we have MSNBC, and we have OANN, which cater to specific ideologies, and that fuels polarization. And Americans continuously, we are consuming news that confirms our bias rather than challenges them. Okay. Misinformation is too easy, and it makes it difficult for policymakers. And so when you are on Facebook, when you're on Twitter, when you're on YouTube, remember that they have no legal requirement to have balanced coverage, and that they operate under Section 230. Remember that Section 230 that protects them from being liable for user-generated content. They are not liable. So I get the fact-checking labels. I get the content moderation policies. But remember, they are often really inconsistent and are also accused of being biased. We don't want false narratives to spread rapidly. We want government advocacy groups to push for regulations, but but they're still concerned about free speech. There's not a lot the FCC ownership and deregulation for the concentration of power. We see the ownership, and local news was once seen as more neutral, has also become increasingly nationalized and agenda driven. There are very much fewer independent voices that are able to break through, limits that genuine diversity in political coverage. And so I am urging you to understand that there's government and there's corporate influence, and the media's fairness is largely determined by corporate interests rather than government regulation. Have that on the tip of your tongue. We want to not hyper segment ourselves by only taking in things that emphasize drama, scandal, and outrage, right? This can be done. So I want you to create your own fairness doctrine, right? Modernize yourself, um, encourage yourself to have more balanced coverage so that you can be a good understander, so that you reduce your own level of misinformation. Force yourself to listen to take in multiple viewpoints. I'm telling you, you will be blown away because, again, we're polarized. Social media has replaced traditional journalism as a dominant news source, but also lacks regulation of accountability. And we got work to do. So there are alternative solutions. I love this conversation. I value you all taking your time with us this morning. I believe that there is a great opportunity in this time. What a time to be alive, right? Remember this, is that our country is very young, very young. And I wrote this. Actually, I'm gonna read this and then I'm gonna get out of your hair for the day, because I believe that it's important to overstate this to everyone. Something that I wrote the other day that feels right. Okay, that feels right. Feels right saying it here. We are still a young nation, and moments like this is a test. Moments like this test the very foundation of our democracy. It's inevitable, and in some ways it's necessary, because we don't truly know the strength of our constitution until it is put under pressure. So right now it's being stretched, it's being questioned, and frankly it's a stress test like never before. But that is why it exists, to hold firm in times of crisis, to guide us through turbulence, and to remind us that democracy in this republic isn't inherited. It is defended, it is reinforced, and it is upheld by those who refuse to let it crumble. And so, even though President Toddler and his band of domestic terrorists, because there is a level of domestic terrorism, I feel like that's happening in people's life, with their taxes, their tariffs, and their reckless terminations, are a stark reminder that some will try to seize and reshape the entire country just to ensure that their children never have to compete. This is not about fairness or democracy for them. It's about maintaining power at any cost, which we all know. What a time to be alive. And so I pray, with all of my anxiety, with my anxiety and all, I pray that we rise to this moment. We have an opportunity to rise to this moment. Okay? All right. All right. So last but not least, I'm going to say this. I want you to put me in your budget. I'm just saying, go to the comments like no money, no mission. I always have to say this. I do good work. I try to hire amazing people so that we are able to show up in the best way possible. If you feel like that is important, contribute. I mean, put me in your monthly budget for $25. Elon has done a great job at funding the president. Who funds your candidates? That's the question. Who funds your people? I would rather my community fund me than anyone else. So I would rather people that I know are believing in doing, even if it's $5 a month, I would much rather be funded by those people than the one billionaire. So here we go. Not that he would fund me anyway, but I'm just saying. So you can go to deliajackieGlass.com and set up a recurring donation, or provide a contribution. If you're on Instagram, my link tree has an option to contribute. We need it. We genuinely need it. We're in a time where a lot more is going to be expected of us. I will be having a mini town, not even a town hall, but a listening session on March 18th. This is very new news. Like, as of yesterday, I dropped it and was like, let's do it. We're doing it on next Tuesday at the 3rd precinct. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to put that out today. And then, I'm here for you. So I'm ready for y'all to work with me on this campaign trail, though. We getting closer to neighbors. So with that, I'll say I am Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet certified, doing the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates, 93rd District. Always honored and grateful to serve. Ears, eyes, and heart are always open. Y'all know what to do. Doers get more done. Sorry, Home Depot. Stole it. And I wish you all the best. So make it a great day. Be well. Oh my gosh, I missed all these comments for some reason. I'm so sorry. Let me do this. Thank you so much for these sources. I was unaware. Goodness, I didn't even see this. I'm telling you, I'm just about to close out. Let me do this. David James Glass says that understanding of red or non-voters is super important. A lot of these folks these days just want to be heard. Lots of anger, lots of misunderstandings going on. Yes, David. And he said in conversation with Dem voters I've had in private, need to be talked about. Lots of us want lower taxes, government regulation, and are cool with eliminating fraud and abuse. With this, start with the oil subsidies. Yes. Can we start with the fact that like SpaceX was subsidized to the tune of 8 million? Stop playing, right? We're okay with getting rid of some subsidies. And I believe, let me just say this, I believe that I know that in the federal government there's waste, fraud, and abuse. Let's just remember, I was a government employee and I did also have to call the IG hotline. This is why the inspector generals are so important. So I agree with that sentiment. Thank you so much, David, for putting it in there. I'm gonna get up off y'all computers, but if you want to set up a time to talk or get a circle of people together so we can show up and talk together, I'm here for it. Just bring them. I got you. I'll be there. All right. Be well. Bye, y'all.